being here, everyone. We'll start the Boards and Commissions Subcommittee. And before we start, I'd like to ask Representative Rogers to lead us in opening prayer. What's your number there, 21?
Let's pray real fast. Lord, for the day, we're grateful. We're grateful for all you are and what you mean to us. We're about to come into a time when it gets very rushed and hectic and everything. We just ask that you be with us, give us your calmness, your peace, so that we can make the best decisions possible. We ask that all that we do glorify you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. In the interest of time, Representative Hawkins, why don't we just, in 10 minutes, I know there's a lot of moving parts to this bill, but, just before we start, every year, we're dealing with scope of practice and changes and everything, and, we're the number one state in the union to do business, and one of the main things we always hear about that is we're giving away tax incentives for that. The other way is loosening regulation on business. The folks on this side of the table staying out of the business and private sector. So, hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement. I don't know what the will of the committee will be today, but we'll see what happens. But I got your mic on there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, but you're waiting on me. We had actually the latest version coming out of Lead Council. Let me just begin by saying that I agreed to help with this bill because I believe in massage. I have a couple bone spurs, 4 bone spurs in my neck, and I have some other things as a dentist, and so I do massage.
Let's
therapy.
let's make sure we're on the same.
I'm sorry.
What bill? What?
I was going to get to that, but we'll go ahead and go to it right now. LC 3373-88S.
Thanks.
Is that what you got? Yeah, good. Okay. So anyway, I find it to be very therapeutic. Taking drugs that are muscle relaxants can make someone drowsy, and it affects your performance as a provider in healthcare and just overall how you feel. So this is what I do. This is what I've chosen, and I actually refer patients with TMJ problems to folks that do massage. There are people out there that are licensed, they have gone to school. We had a school and have a school in Gainesville near school of massage, and they're very well versed, very well taught anatomy and through anatomy and everything else. Now, like I said, we've gone through multiple substitutes of this bill, and I had a bill marked up with notes, but I don't have that with me because we got a new substitute. So let me just say, I'm going to let Judy here, LaFave, speak to you about this bill and also answer any questions you may have. Okay?
Thank you, Representative Hawkins. All right.
Why don't you introduce yourself and who you're with?
Sure. My name is Judy LaFave. I am with the American Massage Therapy Georgia chapter. Massage therapy has been a licensed profession for 11 years. During that time, we've gone from being seen primarily as just for relaxation and stress reduction to getting clients referred to us from oncologists, orthopedists, other medical professions as well. During that time, we've also had the foundation do studies for people with Parkinson's disease, and they've shown a huge benefit for those with Parkinson's to receive massage therapy. We've also, through this process of creating this bill, we've been working with the Georgia Board of Massage Therapy to address some of their concerns around schooling, education, to get rid of some of the diploma mills. That's an issue that has created a loophole for those who wish to practice other than massage therapy. These are pieces that we have added to lift our profession. A lot of the local jurisdictions have been addressing this over the past 4 years by over-regulating us. We've had cities go from a $100 a year business license to a $1,500 a year business license. That's nothing that the regular massage therapist can afford. We pay for our continuing education. We pay for our professional association where we have malpractice insurance, as well as whatever rent for the facilities we're in and supplies and whatnot. We, in some jurisdictions, have come into where they want to come in and inspect the records. That's now a HIPAA violation for us because we do get people who come in with auto accident cases. And like I referenced earlier, we see other types of clients that have been referred from the medical doctors as well. Where I live in Johns Creek, they require a surety bond. Why? I don't know, other than the fact that they're trying to regulate illicit sex businesses through our profession. We are looking to have the local jurisdictions look at us along the same lines they look at other healthcare professionals. That's it.
Questions? Representative Harrell.
Thank you. And thank you both for being here. The testimony that you both have provided with the benefits you see from it, going to a massage therapist, someone that's a member of the association that has a certification that you look for, the problems caused by local governments with surety bonds, the referrals you're getting from other medical practices. How does paying the state of Georgia $100 for a license impact any of those items?
Well, I'll address that and let Judy address it. Years and years ago, even in the world of dentistry and medicine, we had a problem with people practicing without license, but said they did have one. We found that sheriff deputies were too busy to go out and check. We had supposed dentists in the city of Atlanta, when I came into the legislature, who were extracting teeth, never been to dental school, did not have an autoclave, and you've got AIDS and hepatitis and everything else out there, and they're doing it. And so our boards were constructed and appointed by governors, and their charge is to protect the public. And so they do have investigators, and one of the nice things about the board moving here a couple of years ago, the dental board, is that now we have a full-time investigator rather than sharing one. And although dentistry is different than massage, you still have people placing hands on other people, people laying on tables, people exposed to liquids and oils and everything else that potentially could be a health hazard. I can think of no other reason than that to be licensed.
Thank you.
More important.
On line 633 of the proposed substitute, what this would accomplish is move massage therapy in the so-called 400 Club for local licensing. Representative Shaw Blackman has a separate bill dealing with professional licensing and looking at all these various professions and how some are treated differently than others. It's going through a thorough review. This would supersede that effort and put massage therapy in the 400 Club without going through that other review. I think that's problematic, and it's moving forward now. Members of the subcommittee got email from me over the weekend, and just to refresh everybody's mind, we have an organization called the Georgia Occupation Regulation Review Council. I sent you a PDF file of their reports. Twice that organization has issued 50-plus page reports saying this particular profession, as outstanding as it is, requires no state licensure. The year the bill passed that implemented state licensure, no GORC report was issued. So they did not weigh in at that time. Subsequent to licensure of this particular profession, Senate Bill 149 passed in 2010, requiring that same organization to do a review of all licensed professions every 7 years. Massage therapy, not saying through any fault of the industry, has not had that 7-year review as statutorily required. House Resolution 744 passed unanimously on the House floor this past week, authored by Representative Buzz Brockway, to urge GORC to participate in those 7-year reviews and updates that they have not been doing. And Senate Resolution 453, pending now before Senate rules, also seeks to create a study committee within this industry. So at a minimum, I am suggesting to the board that we ought to pause and take no action on this measure, House Bill 915, until such time as members have received the statutorily required review by GORC and have had an opportunity to review that to see if the arguments made at the time of original licensing have proven themselves out to be valuable or not. As an alternative, all of you had a substitute in your blue folder last week, and it's before you again tonight. Or this afternoon. It's LC 337363S that would effectively remove the state licensure requirement for this particular profession. Those are, my comments. I'm not anti this industry. I have, as you have, Dr. Hawkins, benefited, and I think the industry is professional, and I think there are many wonderful practitioners and provide a wonderful service. I am not convinced, nor has the evidence prepared to date, that the state licensure requirement is necessary.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I answer that?
Sure, go ahead.
I understand your concern. I think you're a very wise representative. I have a lot of respect for you. But in this case, let me ask, when was the last time they did a review of this board? Was it 7, 8 years ago? 10 years ago? 12 years ago?
Yeah, the most recent GORC review of the industry, the massage therapy industry, I believe was in 2002. And there was a pending bill that year, Senate Bill 300, that sought to regulate the industry as they are regulated today.
Right.
The GORC review recommended against passage, and this body denied regulation. Prior to that, in 1997, that was the 1997 bill, Senate Bill 300. The 2002 bill was House Bill 733 that sought to regulate this industry. The GORC board reviewed it, recommended against, and the body chose not to regulate the industry at that time.
I'm sorry, what was that date?
2002.
Right.
And then in 2005, the bill was introduced that actually resulted in licensure of massage therapy industry. There was no report requested or written that year, and absent any recommendation, the body licensed the profession for the first time. The subsequent law is Senate Bill 149, passed in 2010, and we're now 8 years later, that requires the update. That's what we're missing. So my suggestion is we take a pause, we get the update as required by statute before we look at modifying the regulatory scheme in this industry further.
I hope they do not take another 7 or 8 years. This is a long pause. I mean,
Again, I have a substitute that would
I
render that
understand
review unnecessary.
Thank you, Representative Harrell. Representative Rogers?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure a lot of this out. Exactly under what you're proposing, you want to regulate massage therapy as such, but I mean, what is that all inclusive of? I mean, what about like reflexology? What
No.
about like acupressure? What about like, Middle East medicines or this? I guess I'm trying to get, I'm trying to figure this out.
All right, those were part of the original bill, and they've been removed. That's how you got the first substitute. So they are currently, if you go to the Secretary of State's site and go to the Massage Therapy Board, look up under policies, it's policy A9. There's a whole list of reflexology, craniosacral therapy, acupressure. All of the different modalities that we are introduced to are exempt under the current state statute. So they're an exempt practice, and they will remain exempt. They will not need licensure to practice in the state of Georgia.
So if we've exempted all of this, what's to stop regulation, completely to?
Okay, so to speak to the GORC reports from the past, they would not recommend approval simply because we didn't kill people. And we haven't killed anybody yet, which is a good thing. We don't want to kill people, but if you have someone who isn't going to school and hasn't gone through school, it could happen. When somebody's having neck work done, and we did this past weekend for TMJ, if you're not careful, you could cut the blood supply off to somebody's brain. We don't want that to happen.
And then they go to the Senate, right?
Yes, well,
Sorry.
that's, that's not up for me to determine.
It's just being
Sorry, I
filmed.
just had to take a shot.
All right, okay,
No.
all right.
Good.
But as I stated earlier, our ability and our clientele has expanded to those who are being referred from orthopedists, oncologists. So we have to know and understand what we're dealing with. When I have someone come in and they fill out the intake form, I look at the medications that they take. I look for contraindications. I had a lady come in this past summer. She had a bite from a black widow. And I said, no, we're not going to do this work today. I do not want to make you sicker. So that's why. But, that's
We have a
right.
couple other lights on, so let's
Sure.
try to get to those folks. Representative Martin, 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Due to, as was mentioned earlier by Representative Williamson, Ways and Means work the last week. I think I missed the previous hearing on this, so I don't mean to step in the middle, not have all the information. One of the things that you pointed out to me that I would like to help with at this point is, and I understand Representative Harrell brought up the fact of the 400 Club and how it drops in there. That's ongoing, but it does seem onerous, if I might, that there being the various fees that may be charged, because I know is it not true that it is not uncommon for a therapist to work in multiple jurisdictions?
Some do,
I mean,
not everyone.
Not everyone, but it's not uncommand for it to happen.
It is.
I just, particularly a therapist that I have used in the past, works different places. They work in a very high end spa, in downtown Atlanta. They also work out closer to their home to extra shift. Point being,
Sure.
they could easily be paying those license fees to municipalities if they get up to, X hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. They could be paying them to multiple municipalities. So I would hope if this legislation doesn't move relative to the, how the business license is done, that we could look at their inclusion in that larger piece of legislation. I think if nothing else, that would be probably fair and helpful to the profession.
Thank you. Representative Bennett.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair and the members of this committee. Thank you for coming here today. A couple of things that have been said, that as the doctor of physical therapy on the board with an extensive background in exercise and physiology, anatomy, I'm concerned. Let me ask a question first. Currently, the massage therapists are licensed. Is that correct or
That
not?
is correct,
They are correct.
for 11 years.
And if I were to read this, it says, if I were to read House Bill 915 on line 22, beginning on line 22, is that massage therapist is a healthcare service delivered by healthcare professions that affects the public health, and that's what the licensing board does. It helps and serves to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of citizens. Am I not correct?
Yes.
Massage therapists also must have a knowledge of anatomy and physiology and understanding of the relationship between the structure, function of the tissue being treated, and total function of the body. Massage is therapeutic, and regulations are necessary to protect the public from unqualified practitioners. In absence of licensure board, what guarantees does this profession or paraprofession have to guarantee to the state that they are operating in the best interest and safety of Georgia citizens, absence of a licensure board?
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. Also, is it not true that there could be diseases, since massage therapists do not diagnose? Am I correct?
That is correct.
There could be diseases that massage could, as you once mentioned earlier, that could add to the detriment and could cause a life-threatening situation in the hands of someone who's not knowledgeable and untrained.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any Questions for the presenter? Okay. Oh, go right ahead.
Excuse me. I got a little sinus thing kicking in right here. Maybe I need a massage. Is that available?
They have sinus stuff,
They got sinus stuff?
Yeah,
That's what I heard.
but you gotta be trained.
Oh.
yep. I
Okay.
am.
I'm a little confused, and I know we've got body work therapy. Body works looks like it's being added into this on line 60, page 3. We got some additions in here, but I'm trying to figure out when I was reading through here on line 108. It said in beginning July the 1st of 05, the governor will appoint the board, initial members of the board serve 2-year terms, 3 initial members, blah, blah, blah. So we've got a board established that I would think should have gone ahead and made the rules and regulate the practice of massage therapy. But on 155, line 155 on page 5, it says, on and after July the 1st, 2018, the Georgia Board of Massage Therapy shall regulate the practice, blah, 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 going through all the things they're supposed to do. Well, what have they been doing up to this point?
They have. That actually should have been omitted out when we removed the licensure for body work.
Okay, so they
That was,
have,
that was put in when we were looking to license the body work modalities.
okay, but are they not going to be licensed under when you've defined them over here on line 60, they're not going to have a license?
No, we defined them so we could pursue taking body work courses for our continuing education. We can still take them, they just don't count for our continuing ed.
Okay, but you're not asking for a separate licensure or anything
No,
from them?
sir.
Okay, that was just, struck me as a little strange there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that we have a few minutes so if anyone would like to speak on the bill? Well, you want to come to the podium and. And if you would, just limit it to a couple of minutes, introduce yourself and.
I'm Jean Glickman. I'm on the Georgia Reflexology Board. And you guys pretty much were very thorough and covered this, but I just want to make it clear since the amended bill has been a little fluid, and just in case there's any changes or anything, we approve of the amended bill as it stands, as long as there are no changes to the draft that would affect any of the current exemptions in the massage law regarding reflexology. Reflexology is a very separate and different modality, and we wouldn't want them regulating us any more than we would want to regulate them. And that is why in the current law, it is written and we are exempted, and we want to keep that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question raised. Representative Harrell?
Ms. Glickman. Ms.
Ma'am?
Glickman?
Ma'am.
Sorry.
So, and I'm completely unaware of the answer to the questions I'm about to ask, so if you don't mind,
Okay.
you're going to educate.
Do you mind if
Is
Russ comes
flexology, the practice of flexology, are you currently licensed by the state of Georgia?
reflexology? No, it's state by state, and we actually, the organization has grown. We're getting to the numbers where we have the numbers and the strengths to start moving that way. In fact, over the last year, at our meetings, that's what we're talking to and pushing to. We've been growing our numbers.
So we could expect to see you requesting state licensure in the future?
Actually, we are looking into it state by state. They do it differently. Some don't have any licensure. Some are under massage, and unfortunately, like in Florida, they were put under massage, where it's actually, in my opinion, the quality of reflexology has gone way down, because now you need to be a massage therapist, but not necessarily have the training we have to be a reflexologist. Some states do have licensure, a few. Some have other ways of regulating, and some have none. We're working towards high standards. The highest standard you can get right now in reflexology is the national certification through ARBC. And we're looking into maybe that being the standard, but we would love to work with anybody that would work with us, any of you that
Are
want to
you-
come alongside us and help us, but we want that.
And I hate to cut you short, but you're practicing today in Georgia.
Yes.
Are you able to earn a living?
Yes, many do. I just started out a few months ago. I love it, and I can totally see in the future it being enough to be a living, but many do.
And you have, in your certifications you discussed, do your clients, patients, whatever you call, are they aware of your certifications?
Yes, I have
Do they seek those out when they choose a reflexologist?
You know, so many people don't really know what reflexology is, and many even think they'll say foot massage, and I correct them right away because it's not massage at all. But I have to educate a lot of people. They don't know about it. But right here is Roz Zollinger, and it is an honor that she is one of the premier people in reflexology in the country, and that she's here. She has a school. There's another man that has a school, and they are the top of their field. In fact, when I did take my certification tests for ARCB and passed, I still have all my documentation to do. And one of the man that tested me afterwards, when I was doing his feet afterwards, I was the last one, and I got in conversation, and I was a little nervous, and he said, don't worry, all of the students we get from Georgia, from her and the other gentleman, always do great. We already have like great education through them. We're getting to the point where we're more and more organized. We want reflexology to have the best reputation. We want the best for our clients. We love our clients. We feel like we're offering it now, but we want that accountability, and that's what we're working towards
Okay.
ourselves.
We have
Thank you
another
so
question
much.
as well. Representative Rogers?
I just have one quick question regarding the reflexology. Okay. A minute ago, you were talking about massage therapy, that you're trained to recognize health signs. You had somebody with the black widow spider that had obviously venom, and if
Sure.
you give it a massage, the venom could have spread throughout the body or whatever.
Sure.
Well, what's the difference between that and reflexology? Because as I understand, reflexology is to hit trigger points, to stimulate circulation, to do different things of this nature. What happens if you have someone that comes to you from a reflexologist standpoint and you stimulate their circulation? They've got a black widow spider bite that you're unaware of, and I mean, are you not putting them in the same position here?
Well, it could be, but you've got to come from knowledge, and we have a client intake form. I teach my students pretty advanced anatomy, physiology, pathologies of the body. We look at contraindications and cautions, so we approach it in the same way, but we're just really working pressure points on the feet and the hands, or just the feet sometimes.
And can I add that we are also trained in our classes not only to give them the medical history little questionnaire to fill out, but to always ask them, is there anything you need to tell us, anything going on now, anything new? And reflexology is one of the safest modalities. It has very few contraindications, but we know them well, and we're very thorough.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak real quickly?
I'll make it quickly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Todd Edwards with the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. We didn't have any concerns with the portion of the bill that dealt with licensing. There was Article 2 in there that preempted certain practices that local governments do to ensure proper background investigations on these operations. There are two folks here, one from Cobb County, Dr. Jackie McMorris, and also from Columbia County, Scott Johnson. And if y'all are to address the bill today or have any concerns, particularly or specifically on the local government preemptions, they are here, avail themselves to you for any questions or concerns you may have.
Thank you.
We have the same concerns at ACCG.
Okay. Anyone have any particular questions for? Sure, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you find, it was mentioned earlier about the differences in license fees? And we all know we've addressed those, in detail down in Ways and Means, but the way the business occupation tax is applied, do you find what the lady mentioned, that they vary widely across counties and or cities?
I don't have that specific research. What we do, as we do with every bill, is when we have it at ACCG, we send it out and solicit feedback from the counties. The only feedback I got was concerning the preemptions, particularly on background checks at the local level and some of the other requirements of owners. But I'm not familiar with that area, Representative. I apologize.
No problem. I just was wondering about it seemed to be, her representation was a quite wide variety in what was charged relative to the business license tax. And I just wondered if that was being applied per therapist rather than per business. I mean, normally that's, one of the things that can be done is number of employees, gross revenues, or the 400 club as it's referred to. So I'm just curious, do cities and counties require them to register individually and charge a differing fee?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we have Scott Johnson from Columbia County who might be better apt to address that question, with your permission,
Okay,
sir.
real quick.
If you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I can do it
Members of the
offline.
committee, again, it's Scott Johnson. I'm the county manager in Columbia County, also the president-elect for the Georgia City County Managers Association. To address the question that's been asked, each individual jurisdiction is different. I can tell you in Columbia County, we do it by the number of employees. Being a single person, we have an operator's license in Columbia County for massage. There is no fee for that operator's license. It is conditionally zoned, so there are zoning fees if the zoning's not correct, but that would apply to any industry,
Sure.
no different. But to answer the question, each jurisdiction is going to be different. Some actually do it based on revenue, and some do it based on number of employees.
Right, and just brief follow-up. So that was my question. I mean, I know how the business occupation tax can be applied, based on three things. My question was, if you applied the business license tax to the overriding business revenue or number of employees, are you aware that they then, cities have passed ordinance that have specifically singled out this occupation for a different fee? So if you had a Massage Envy and you were the proprietor and you paid your fee as a business occupation, would then therapists would then that worked at the facility be required in jurisdictions to pay
Yes, sir.
another fee? Are
I
you
can
aware
say,
of that?
yes, sir. There are jurisdictions that do that.
Okay.
Each jurisdiction has had to address issues in that particular jurisdiction, and some have chosen to address it by having higher fees. Others have chosen to address it by having just different regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Does anyone else have okay, we have one more. Go ahead. Just 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and take less. My name is Michelle Pinkava. I'm here from the city of Tucker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak briefly on some of the limitations on restrictions for local jurisdictions. We are a new city, as you know, and one of the first issues that we took up was a proliferation of unsavory massage establishments, and it's been a challenge prior to cityhood and even in our first few years, because it's a ball that keeps moving. And even with working with our local authorities, with the DeKalb County Commissioners and with the Solicitor's Office, we've made great improvements, and we have adopted an ordinance that let me back up. We went to some of our fine establishments in Tucker and invited those owners to sit with us and help us draft this legislation. And it's been very successful. We've closed 3 massage parlors to date, and have now welcomed 3 new fantastic. We have a Massage Envy actually opening this month, and a new one that's going through the process. So the concerns that we have, if you choose to hear this today, are some of the local limits that, for instance, we have a moratorium now. If there is a conviction at a massage establishment for prostitution or for operating a house of prostitution, usually you can pull the license, but they can just sell the business to someone else very quickly and reopen that business and operate in the same way. We've attached a moratorium to that piece of property, and it has been very effective, so that for 12 months, that type of business cannot operate in that location, which directly affects the landlords that are willing to lease to these types of establishments. And the only other thing I'll mention is that we have engaged a process for land use permits for these types of establishments. Massage Envy, Massage Associates, places like that have no problem whatsoever coming before the council and discussing their business and applying for these land use permits. And we have had nobody from these businesses that have been challenging that has been willing to come before the council and ask for a permit for some of the more unsavory types of business. So it's
Right.
been very successful, and I just hope that you'll allow us to continue that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seems like we have a couple of different directions we can go in here. We can wait on a study committee, take no action. We have a couple of LCs in front of us. What's the will of the committee at this point? Representative Kirby.
Yeah, on LC 337363S, I make a motion to pass.
Okay, we have a motion and do pass on LC 337363S.
Which one?
Yep.
Oh, you're talking about remove the whole thing, the whole board.
Correct.
That's Brett's.
Right, Brett Harrell's bill, substitute. Okay.
Oh, it's- Yeah, that's right here.
Representative Martin.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized, make a substitute motion.
State your motion.
It is, in the process of making that motion, let me say, I agree with Chairman Harrell. We like to cut regulations when we can, but given this is important and late in the session, I would make substitute motion to table LC 337363S, House Bill 915 at this time.
Wait. Oh. Yes.
Well, I would move to table the item we have before us. I think that's the only one I
Right.
have a choice on moving to table, since that is the one we have action on.
7363S.
That is what my intent was.
Okay, so we have a motion to table.
I'm confused, Mr. Chairman. I thought we were discussing 7388.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. I'm looking. I've got two of them here. I would move. No, I'm correct. Mr. Chairman, I am moving to table I moved to table the proposition, HB 915. I don't know that is necessarily in order, Mr. Chairman, to move to table a specific LC, so I would just move to table.
Well, the
action.
motion was do pass 7363S.
Yes,
We
sir.
have a
And
second.
No, sir, I asked to be recognized
No,
for a substitute
right.
motion.
Right.
And so I guess the appropriate motion, and thanks for bearing with me, the appropriate motion would be for this subcommittee to table action on HB 915.
Right. Yeah, we need, you've made the motion to
That is the
table.
motion. Yes,
Do we-
sir.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? So. Yep. Okay, so we have a motion to table in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Can we just have a show of hands just to make sure? All in favor of the table? We're tabling. Correct.
Well,
No.
No.
Okay, tabling Harold first.
Right. Tabling 7363S.
Okay.
We have a second, and so now we're in favor of that, raise your hand. 3. Okay. So that fails.
And
I don't. So, okay, so we got 4, okay? Okay, and to table, all right, so all opposed to the tabling? So, can I vote in it?
I don't know what I don't know what the committee, you can't create, you're creating a time, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure what the committee rules are on that.
It was 4. Yeah, I
Okay,
passed it, yeah.
Okay,
right.
Oh, we have another member.
No.
We have another member.
So it. All right.
So motion fails.
Okay, so that failed, correct? Okay. So now, the original motion to pass 7363S is all in favor of, so you need to be recognized again, or?
No, I'm just moving.
Okay. I was gonna say we can't. Okay. All right, so all in favor of do pass 7363S, signify by raising your hand. Okay, and all opposed? So it's 5-4 again. So do pass on the full committee, so you can handle it now. Thank you.
I didn't see, did Rick voted yes? Yeah, they just voted deregulate, but it's not gonna happen. I can fix that.
I hope to God you can.
I can.
you will allow. We've got two measures. Today we're going to take up House Bill 653, Representative Spencer, and 977, Representative Mathiak. Mathiak. Sorry, ma'am. Mathiak. I'm looking at it now. Whew. My sinuses are still between my bad eye and my sinuses and my headache. I'm not in good shape. I do need a massage. You will. Little Jack Daniel will be great. Let's have another word of prayer and we'll get started. Lord, we do thank you for this day. Thank you for the ability you've given us to serve our great state. Lord, we don't take it lightly. We ask you to bless all that we undertake to do, that we would do all within your will. Thank you for the blessings of life this morning. Go with us now in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, Representative Spencer, would you like to come up and talk to us? And there's a sign-up sheet again for these two pieces of legislation. If anybody's here would like to sign up, talk to us, feel free. If not, that's okay too. Whatever you want to do. Got your mic on there, my friend, if you want to pull that up. Okay.
Yep, it's on. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring before you House Bill 653. And you also have some papers in front of you, sort of how I got turned on to this bill. I saw a newspaper article in the New York Times, and it talked about how much, I think all of us know that the student loan debt situation is getting pretty common across this younger generation now. And what I have found is, in this article, it talked about a nurse that in Georgia that essentially her license was suspended because she fell on hard times and she wasn't able to pay her student loans. She apparently got into some relationship trouble, and then she couldn't end up paying her student loans. And then the nursing board came along and said, well, we have to suspend your license because you defaulted on a federal student loan. She got behind. And so that kind of piqued my interest there. I'm like, well, why are we suspending somebody's license for the recovery of debt for the federal government? So that got me interested. And so I kind of dug into this a little deeper. And what you see there is a letter from the Department of Justice. It's dated 2014. Here, the U.S. Attorney, in this case, they knew that Georgia had a law like this, and they said, we want to let you know that this person is defaulted on her federal student loan, and we want you to basically take action pursuant to OCGA 43129. And so if you look at your bill, 653, that is the law, the operative law that I'm talking about. And so it's a shall and not a may. And so 19 states have laws like this. And also, if you look in the second part of the order or judgment, that is a lien that the federal government was able to put on this person's property because she wasn't able to pay her student loan debt. I understand trying to hold people accountable for debt. That's not the issue. The issue here is a little bit more in terms of, I take an issue with state sovereignty here. We are essentially acting, because we have passed a law like this, we are essentially acting as a collection agency for the federal government. We're not standing in the gap for our citizens. And with the prevalence, if you will, of student loan debt becoming so common now, we are going to have professionals that could fall on hard times, whether that be doctors or nurses or other professionally licensed, and especially in rural areas where we already have a nursing shortage and a doctor shortage. Why are we the bad guy? Why is the federal government making Georgia the bad guy in a situation like this? So what I decided to do was look at our law and find out, what does it say? And then this is what it says. And so what I'm proposing today is, while I understand holding somebody accountable for debt and things, they should pay their debts, but I understand that, but that's a contractual agreement between the federal government and the person who took out the loan. I don't see why the state of Georgia has to get involved with this. What we end up doing is, if that person has their license suspended, they fell on hard times, they're not taxpayers in this state anymore, they're going to end up going on welfare benefits, and that's the wrong direction we want to go, I believe, as a state. So what I've proposed here in House Bill 653, I simply just strike out the word shall and make it a may. I give the discretion to the board. We don't repeal the law in itself, which is probably a preference of mine, but I think I'd get broader support if we just kind of temper this a little bit and allow the board's discretion should they do so. I talked to the Secretary of State's office, and since 2015, they've only had 5 cases under this statute to try to suspend licensures. We're trying to get further numbers going farther back than 2015. But that's essentially the bill, and that's the motivation for the bill, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I'll take questions.
We have a few for you, my friend. Number 25, I believe you were first, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to cut you off, but the man had me at hello on this. I think this is a good measure. If I was going to tell him to sit down, he had a winner given the late hour of the day. But if there are more questions, come back to me. I'd move. I'd be ready to move this forward.
What was that Representative Williams said yesterday? Do I need to bring a lunch? Something like that.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm ready when you are.
All right. Number 22.
Yeah, Representative Spencer, if I remember my history right, and I was a history major, wasn't Georgia founded like sort of as a debtor's colony?
You are right.
And wasn't it like about second chances?
That's right.
Things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
And General Oglethorpe didn't know what the United States was all about, but wouldn't he probably be a little bit concerned about us trying to collect debts for the federal government?
I think he would, sir.
That's my way of saying that I'm ready to second the motion.
Okay.
I think you've got some support up here, my friend. Number 3, you were next, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, and I'm ready to third the motion.
Okay. All right.
The fact of the matter is I almost feel like offering an amendment to the author's proposal in that I'd like to go with his preference in that we give special protection to federal student loans in that you cannot escape them. They cannot be eradicated through bankruptcy. They have the option of pursuing any income tax return, your liens on your properties, and in addition to that, now suspend their license seems to be an egregious overdoing of public policy. So, Mr. Chairman, if you accept my motion, let's do away with the proposal altogether.
Well, I think we would need an amendment for that, and this may not be the time for that, but you are always enthusiastic, Representative, and I appreciate that. Representative Defenbach, you have a comment also along this line?
I have a minor question. I may not be as liberal as the other ones are, Mr. Chairman, but liberal.
That's conservative. We don't want government involved.
One issue which is incidental to a lot of these things, but I guess it was Deborah Curry.
That is the person.
How long was she remiss on the note?
Let's see.
I tried to read it quickly and didn't see it. I mean, was it a week?
There is another
year?
letter in there. Let's see. I don't know if it talks about.
I thought I read from 03 maybe.
She was a few months behind.
A
She did
few
get behind.
months or a
Yeah.
year or two?
I don't know exactly. I don't see this in the letters from the Secretary of State's office, but it is safe to say that she got way far behind, and that's why these loans that the federal government was trying to get, make good were loans that were specifically designed for healthcare providers. It came from the Department of Health and Human Services, and that sort of was a pass-through for the Department of Education at the federal level, and that's how they made that connection to Miss Curry. So again, I don't know how delinquent she was, but she was delinquent enough to, if I remember, hold on a second, my aide is here, he actually called.
No, that's okay.
He actually called the U.S. Department of Justice on
They
this.
charged her 7% interest from April the 19th, 2003. One of the
okay.
sheets in here, they charged her 7% interest from, that period of time.
2003 till
so
current, more or less?
Yes, let's not try to get into debate here, though.
Okay.
We want to move this
Well,
along, but
let me just say this at the end. I become a liberal, and I'll vote for it.
Well, sir, I would tell you that I would tell you that I appreciate your support on this.
this is a real problem, and in the bigger scheme of things, what concerns me is this advertisements we see on TV for these kids coming out, come down here and get a student loan. They can get a student loan for any type of degree program. they may wind
Right.
up owing $30, $40, $50,000, get a degree, and they're gonna go ahead and get a $10 an hour
And I-
job.
I think that's where the
And
efforts-
that to me is egregious. We need the federal government needs to get a better handle on where they're loaning money. And as we talked about in some legislation the other day in education, some of the degree programs we're offering, if we're gonna give these kids a leg up going to college or going to these dual enrollments, they need to be going into a career field that's gonna pay above the state or national average maybe, not just go out here and get a minimum wage job. That to me is the overall problem here. Now, this young lady, registered nurse, has a good job, and I don't know what her or should have. They're in short supply because as I get older, I'm gonna need more help, I know. Representative Hawkins, you gonna add to us on this?
Well, I'm making sure I understand what's going on. You tell me the federal government is going to take away the ability of someone to make a living because they can't pay the debt. So we're going to put them out of work to make them pay the debt. Is that what you're saying?
The state of Georgia is putting them out of work.
Yeah.
To pay.
And Georgia, but it's a federal law.
Right.
So it's sort of like taking the shovel away from the ditch digger and waiting for him to finish the ditch.
Exactly. They put a lien
Put
on
a
it.
lien on his shovel.
On a lien on his shovel.
Good.
All right, I think, okay, number 25, I'm ready for a motion.
Yes, sir. Notwithstanding further comment on this, I move due pass on HB 653 LC 337110.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to second it, but I'm also going to reassure Mr. Deffenbaugh, having been a veteran of 5 children in college and student loans, a lot of times the federal government is very, very lax in getting information to you and asking for money and things of that nature, because I kind of went through that with them. So the federal government's not very good at trying to collect their own debts, and I don't see no reason whatsoever for the state of Georgia to do it for them.
All right, we got a move and second. Any other questions before the committee at this time? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Representative, this is a good bill. I appreciate your foresight, and you worked on some mighty hard legislation this year, and I appreciate your endeavors. I
appreciate
really
it. And
do.
if anybody's sitting on rules, I'd love for you to ask for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, House Bill 977. Representative Mathiak, would you come forward, ma'am, and anybody else that you have to share with us? Yeah. Thank you, brother. Hey. Good afternoon, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I hope I have an easy bill. I think I do.
Well, sure you do.
I've got House Bill 977, LC 337364. And this is concerning microblading in the state of Georgia. The bill does 3 things. It defines microblading of the eyebrow for the purposes of state law. It allows the Department of Public Health to continue to provide regulatory oversight of the microblade artist under the current rules and regulations, and it establishes that microblading of the eyebrow is not a misdemeanor offense under state law in allowing the services to be delivered. The big thing that I would like for you to hear, yes, it is a type of tattoo, cosmetology tattoo. However, it's done with something that almost looks like an ink pen, and it only goes 3 layers under the epidermis, where a tattoo goes 7 layers. So it's a little different than what a tattoo is. It's semi-permanent. You have to have touch-ups every once in a while, and it's done to help the client match their hair and skin tone. The reason that I was interested in this is the medical indicators. Our friends that have had cancer and lose their hair, usually they lose their eyebrows. And us ladies, it's kind of nice for us to have a face if we're going through cancer. So that was the biggie for me. Alopecia of course, with hair falling out, and burn patients are the other patient that may want this done. They want to look normal to the world. The other thing that I would like for you to consider is their liability insurance. If this if this bill helps with liability insurance and our artists to be able to continue with their insurance. Public Health began to interpret and enforce OCGA Law 16-12-5 to prohibit microblading of the eyebrow, and this bill will help with that. DPH is neutral on the bill, and there's approximately 130 licensed microbladers in the state of Georgia.
Is it my understanding, madam, that some places have tried to regulate them out of business or not allow the licensures to come in? Is that?
This is Jennifer Brumlett, and she's the gal that owns Total Spectrum.
No.
Is that right?
No, Total Spectrum.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But she's the licensed microblader.
Okay, well, just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, really.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you so much for taking your time today to hear this. My name's Jennifer Bramlett. I am a lifelong resident of Georgia. I currently reside in Pickens County. I love the state so much that when my husband went to Los Angeles for a job, I told him to have at it, and I stayed here. So we go back and forth. But this became a passion of mine. You have many medical reasons why somebody would want this done. And along with some vanity, I get that, but men and women alike get this done. When I went to apply for a license, late September, early October, I provided everything that was needed as they were currently or previously permitting microbladers in the state. And about the time I was waiting to get my permit, I got a phone call that DPH had changed their mind and decided that due to this law, they were not going to permit any more microbladers. They would not be renewing any microblading permits. So I'm not somebody who kind of sits back and does nothing. At that point, I decided, okay, there's got to be plenty of us here. We gathered them up. But then we started hearing, once we gathered them up, that some of them were starting to get visits from inspectors coming into their shops and telling them they can no longer do this. I think one of them was in your area as well, Mr. Chairman. It's not the only story we've had. We have insurance companies that are canceling our artists' insurance. They're not renewing. This is a pretty lucrative business in Georgia. We have people actually come in from other states and pay to have this done. And all we want to do is, we want to be recognized. We want to be able to keep providing this service to the citizens of Georgia. And that's why we would ask that this law be amended just to make microblading not a misdemeanor in the state.
I think I got some people that are ready to vote on this. I don't know. I got 3 lights on. Any of y'all got real questions? Have I got any real questions down here? All right, I'm going to assume I got 2 questions and the rest of them are ready to vote. Okay.
Well,
Number 25, go ahead.
Just to be clear, because we do hear this sometime that we overregulate. Just to be clear, if we don't do this, you're out of business. This is not just for those that are watching or that are in the room here, even though this looks like a new law and it has some regulation, without this, you can't continue to do what you do today, which is what people want, what you want to do, correct?
That is correct.
So, again, I'm not cutting you off, but the chairman's ready to go. So by doing this, we're getting you where you want to be.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
One question.
No question. I'd like to be recognized for a motion.
John, you still got a question? All right, let's go. Let's get Representative Ball's question. Quick question.
What is the difference between tattooing and microblading other than the distance that you go? Could you get a tattoos license and do this?
Tattoo is different. It's different than what we do. Most of them use an actual machine, and what we use is a manual tool. It is an artistry. It is a
Okay.
stroke.
And then the other side of that, do you have any of that now?
Yes, sir.
You are microbladed?
My eyebrows are microbladed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Okay.
number 11.
Fix my hairline.
Yes, sir, we probably can. No, I'm kidding.
You want to do pass?
Move to pass.
Second.
All right, got multiple seconds. Any other questions? I'm cutting you all off. I'm dropping everybody. Dropping you like flies here. Move in a second. Do pass. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, let them say an aye. All right. All opposed, like sign. I want to say this will be, we got one bill, maybe or two bills coming over from the Senate. We'll deal with those in the next week or so. But I appreciate this committee. Y'all have been just so much fun and a blessing for me to work with. We may have one more meeting, but I appreciate the subcommittee chairs. When I sit in on your meetings, I'm amazed at how smart you are. I sit back and think, God, these are smart people. I'm glad you're here. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Well, I was going to say, Mr. Chairman, if you don't think we're going to meet again, I want to make a motion to adjourn to a date specific, because I'd like the committee to meet at least one more time so we could recognize you properly.
We got another meeting coming
All
up. We
right.
got a Senate bill. Thank y'all.